So guys, if there is one show, just one show I could recommend to you to watch, or just say you have to watch it right now, even over Doom Patrol, which I am loving at the minute, that would be Umbrella Academy. What is up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new review, I guess, of something else entirely, well, not entirely different, but it's just another show outside Marvel and DC, and that is Umbrella Academy. So you guys have been commenting, I've seen it in my comment sections on random videos, but are you going to be reviewing Umbrella Academy? You're going to be watching it though, and I'm like, every time, yes. I just arrived to it a couple of days late, and then I watched the season over a few more days, and here we are just over like a week or so past it, and my god, this has instantly ranked itself to my #1 favorite show at the minute. I mean, I know we've got Doom Patrol, and that's what I would say alongside it, and I'll give a comparison to that, but seriously, wow. Now, if you're worried about spoilers and stuff, what I will say is that this is basically, for the most part, a non-spoiler review, but the spoilers that I would go into is just, I don't know, comparing it to your basic storyline, or your friend telling you about it and you going to watch the show and probably forgot about the minor details that I've given you. So I would say it's on the safe side. I'm just going to give you enough to kind of get a taste for this show. I won't be going into heavy spoilers of this. If you want to see other videos like that, be sure to leave a like on this video. Or maybe some video suggestions on stuff you want to see me make on Umbrella Academy. Maybe a season 2 prediction video or something. But let's get into this review, guys, because I'm imploring you to go and watch this show on Netflix. It is amazing. So first of all, why do I love Umbrella Academy? I love this show because it's just something that's different, and that is refreshing. And one way to put it, guys, is that this show is outside Marvel and DC. I believe the actual comic version of it is from Dark Horse Comics. Now, as I mentioned briefly a minute ago, it's launched alongside around the same time as Doom Patrol, right? And, you know, it's another show that I'm in love with. And although they're both very comedic shows surrounding somewhat dysfunctional families, I think where Umbrella Academy takes the cake for me is that it's this new comic book show, and that is, you know, just come to Netflix soaring with the confidence of, you know, as if it's had 5 seasons behind it that everyone just gave 100% to. So Boba, stop complimenting it for just a second. What is this show roughly about? So essentially, Umbrella Academy is about, well, the Umbrella Academy, but who is the Umbrella Academy? So essentially, the Umbrella Academy is founded by this billionaire known as Sir Reginald Hargreaves, and essentially these babies are born in the world. I think there's actually a whole bunch of them. I do not quote me on this. I haven't read the comic book myself, and I'm looking into getting that so I can just dive into it a bit more. But there's around 40. I could be wrong there, but he adopts 7 of them, and I literally mean these ladies out of nowhere get pregnant. He manages to compensate the women for the children, but they're born with unique abilities, right? So he manages to get 7 of them, brings them back to the Umbrella Academy, and essentially wants to train them to be somewhat this superhero force to stop this kind of impending doom he thinks might happen at some point in time. Isn't that like such a wacky synopsis within itself? And when you see it on screen, you're just captivated by that within itself anyway, and the way that first episode just grips you. Very strong foundation and premiere, or like first episode in this show. It's just very fascinating to watch these events unfold and see how this dysfunctional family, well, it is a dysfunctional family, because let's put it this way, you know, Reginald Hargreaves isn't exactly the best parental figure. He really doesn't convey his emotion, and whilst this show, I feel like, definitely hints towards him having feelings throughout, it's very, these kids grew up essentially without you know, having a father. I mean, for crying out loud, they're all named like number 1 through to number 7. They didn't even get given names by Sir Reginald Hargreaves. They got given names by a robotic mother. So yeah, you can kind of see the damage here. Now, I think another reason why the story grips you straight away is because of the cast. The cast is really good. Now, obviously, there is some cast members or characters stronger than other characters, and I'll get to that. But another thing, I think maybe my favorite thing, apart from just the overall amazing cinematic feel this has to it, because my god, it must have had a high budget, like literally a really high budget. It is the soundtrack, and that's another thing as well. Like literally, the soundtrack in this show is absolutely brilliant. Like the best thing I've heard in a long time. I can't even think of something to compare it to off the top of my head right now. But it's things like this which really cement a show, and you know it's like, damn, they've really got it. They've really hit the ground running, so to speak. So let's talk about the characters for a second. They are all very, very good. Some better than others, as I think I've already mentioned. And I think that can easily be addressed because I really did like each character. They all had their own unique abilities. They all had their own kind of problems or different views on the way the kind of family went, their relationships, and everything like that. So let's start off with Luther. So Luther is played by Tom Hopper. I've seen him in Black Sails. He was fantastic in that. He really, really was. And it was a really pleasant surprise to me to watch this show. And I went into it blind, basically, and I saw him now. I was like, great. Well, I feel like we're off to a great start already. He is essentially the golden boy of the Academy. He's number one. I feel like he is one of the more stronger characters. He's definitely not my favorite, but Tom Hopper does an amazing job. And his ability is like, I don't want to go into, as I said, into detail, but let's just say he's pretty strong. Then we have Diego, played by David Castaneda. I'm sorry if I butchered that. Now, he has the ability to like throw or like manipulate knives or whatever he throws during like flight, so he can literally curve it around the corner and stuff like that. Really, really, really cool power. The only thing I would say about Diego's character is I don't know if I want to say he's my least favorite, because he isn't, but I would definitely say he's right at the bottom of the list. Now, and I don't want this to put anyone off. I'm just saying, out of all of the cast, he isn't my favorite out of all the ones we have got. I just felt like his character wasn't as explored as the other characters or had as much depth. Sure, there was a couple of really great moments with him and his relationship with their mother, if you will, and another relationship in the show, but I just felt like there wasn't so much gravity to him. I feel like we could get a lot more next season. Then we have, I think, my favorite character. I can't decide between this character and another character, and that is Klaus. Klaus is played by Robert Sheehan, and he is just absolutely fantastic. He has the ability to conjure the dead, and as I said, throughout this show you get context and flashbacks to give you a bit of ideas as to their relationships with Sir Reginald Hargreaves, why they are the way they are now and everything like that, and you kind of understand he's this drug addict kind of junkie. As I said, like it's somewhat understandable the direction he went with what you see he's experienced and what he does experience consistently throughout the show. He played the role so well. He had probably one of the most fun roles in the show, but his story is really, really, really interesting. There's this part, I think around mid-season or 3/4 of the way through, where I think the show suffers from a teeny bit of a pacing problem, but I'll get to that in a second. But like what happens with him is just so insane. You're just like, wow, they just did that, and it's like it was nothing. I mean, it was something for him, but you'll get what I mean, and maybe you know what I mean if you've watched it yourself already. Easily the strongest, I think, character most people find out of this instantly. When the people I know have watched it, they say their favorite character is Klaus or this other person, and that leads me on to number 5. So number 5 is played by Aidan Gallagher, and already I'm seeing everywhere fan castings for Damian Wayne, and I have to say, you can't not see that. This kid is so talented. He essentially plays, well, let me say his ability first. He can teleport, but they also explore the capability of him time traveling and stuff like that. So number 5 essentially went missing one day, and this is all, as I said, like kind of synopsis in the first episode. It really catapults the storyline for the rest of the season. When they were younger, when they were around 14, 15, and he comes back in the episode having lived like 47 years in the future, but he comes back in the body of when he was younger, like when he first went missing. So this kid has to play like this, I don't know, like 50, 60 something year old man in a young kid's body, and sometimes it does feel quite eccentric, but man, it is done so well, and Aidan did such a fantastic job. He was very, very badass, and I can easily tell you with quite a lot of certainty it's either him or Klaus who will be your favorite characters when you watch this show. So yeah, he essentially comes back to stop this impending apocalypse, and that's where the story throughout goes onwards. But yeah, I'm not going to say anything more than that in terms of spoilers, but the VFX as well of this character, and the way he just goes in and out of teleporting and stuff like that throughout the show, and the way they've used it in fight scenes and stuff was just so good. Then we have Alison, who I really enjoyed her character. Her power is really, really unique. She can essentially change anything she wants to by saying, I heard a rumor. So it's just like, I heard a rumor, I could say this to YouTube, that I have 1 million subscribers, and they just instantly give me 1 million subscribers. She can do anything like that. One thing I will say about her character, even though she is somewhat one of the beating hearts of season 1 with her relationship with Anya, who I'm about to get onto, I just felt like she wasn't, I don't know, as forefront as Klaus and number 5, for example. But what I will say is that I really enjoyed the story they gave her, especially with her connection to Anya, the fact that, as I said, I can't go too into detail, but she has some history with her family. As I said, when they all leave the academy, they kind of went off on their own branches, and she has a lot of drama in terms of her family and her child. It's definitely this really unique, cool storyline they added in with her power. But yeah, she was interesting, and I really liked her relationship with Luther. But let's move on to Vanya. Now, Vanya is very, very interesting, and she is a very big part of this show. Now, she was played by Ellen Page, and I really, really enjoyed her performance. She is the girl who didn't have any powers. Now, it's like, what do you mean by this? She's essentially, when all of these babies were adopted by Sir Reginald Hargreaves, they all had abilities, right? But she seemingly is the non-special one. She was always excluded and everything like that. From all of the activities, all the missions they would have gone out on, she was essentially holding the clipboard for Reginald when they were doing training and stuff like that. So her relationship with the other family members is a very interesting one to watch unfold in the show. She is a very interesting character, and to watch her journey throughout the season is very compelling. And by the end of it, you're just really, really fascinated by where this could go in the future. And her storyline is a very, very unique one. This is what I mean. As I'm kind of talking about each character, everyone has their own baggage. Everyone got raised in this house without kind of love, unless you count the robotic mother, which is Grace. I guess we'll talk about Grace very quickly. She is played by Jordan Claire Robbins. She essentially, as I said, is a robot. She was the only love the kids kind of really got, apart from Pogo. Pogo, man, what can I say about Pogo? I loved Pogo. If you're a big Batman fan or anything like that, to put it, or well, comic book fan in general, to put it in like simple terms, he is the Alfred of the Umbrella Academy, except that he is a chimpanzee version of Alfred at the Umbrella Academy. The CGI for him was done very well in my opinion. As I said, the visual effects of this show was very, very good. As I said, combined him with Grace, they are essentially the people who raised the Umbrella Academy kids, but since, you know, Sir Reginald Hargreaves was so kind of cold. As I said, it's very interesting to see the hints of him throughout actually having feelings, and they definitely address that with a couple of characters like Anya, but I definitely don't want to say too much more. But one of the things that I love most about this show is its consistent sense of humor, which doesn't negate this serious, dramatic storyline that is the impending apocalypse. Both of these two core elements of the show just leave you with this intriguing infatuation to keep on watching, and it's almost like a balance you wouldn't think would work well all the time. Whereas with Umbrella Academy, you've got this impending apocalypse and stuff, and all of these really, really sad moments for these characters. To put it, as I said earlier, with what happens with Klaus, with his childhood, with what happens at a certain point 3/4 throughout the season, it's really, really serious stuff. Not to mention the story going on with Luther and what his relationship with their dad, I guess. And every other character, as I said, every character has a lot of baggage. It's really, really messed up, but they still like spew a load of paint on the screen of comedy and everything like that, that just keeps you really entertained. Now, I know I mentioned this earlier about the music, but the action sequences, you know, the funny cinematic moments that are blended in with the music is just perfect. As I mentioned earlier, it really is the best kind of music. To get those tracks, as I said, it must have cost so much money, but I just can't imagine this show without those blends of the music, the way the action unfolded. Like, there's this really cool scene, I think within the first couple of episodes, where number 5 is essentially going along to Queen, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. And he's just teleporting all over the place, being a badass. And when you see moments like that in this show, you are just instantly sold. Now, just like every show, it does lose momentum a couple of times, but that wasn't the end of the world for me, and it shouldn't be the end of the world for anyone else. I know there are some people out there who do not like Umbrella Academy, but for me, that is just such a huge shame to let something just like that. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is the amazing things that this show accomplishes with its first season make you more than forgiving for the little bit of a bump of a pace halfway throughout with the storyline with number 5, I guess, with the 2 agents that are after him. And I totally forgot to mention them, by the way. They are really, really, really strong aspects of this show. And they're both called Hazel and Cha-Cha, played by Mary J. Blige and Cameron Britton. As I said, they're like this other kind of not self-contained story. It's linked to it, but you know, you won't really find out a lot about them till around the midpoint. But they are very, very entertaining factors of this show. But yeah, I guess what I'm trying to convey here is that if anyone falls off this show because of like that, like little bump, I guess, in pacing, like that's nothing compared to some other shows out there. Jesus, like this show, I don't get you if you give up on this show. Now, the main villain, if you will, it's kind of hard to talk about this without giving away too much. It's a very interesting thing to watch unfold. I guess you could say there's a couple of antagonists, or mainly kind of one, but in this show. But watching that develop and watching it go throughout the season and how it unfolds, and watching the whole team try and figure out and literally only have days to stop this catastrophic event from happening, is a very, very interesting thing to unfold. You would think it would be predictable at the beginning, but then, as I said, it just gets more and more complicated and more interesting as to why and as to how each and everything unfolds the way it does. And lastly, guys, is the potential. Holy shit, the potential. I think that's one of the things I'm most excited about here, is that this show, as I said, hit the ground running with like the confidence of somebody who's been freaking batting their whole life. And I'm just so excited for the future. I really hope everyone loves this as much as I do. Obviously, you may have heard everyone talking about it, your friends talking about it. Go watch this show. Now you're seeing me say, go watch this show. It would be such a shame if they did make a season 2 with even less of the budget. Like, that is what makes this show this show. The potential for it is just freaking huge. And that leads me to the cliffhanger at the end. I don't know how I feel about that. It's a really cool cliffhanger, but it really winds me up sometimes when you get cliffhangers like this and you're like, okay, god damn it, what are we gonna do until 2 years from now or something like that. It's just refreshing, as I mentioned at the start of this review, that this isn't a show from Marvel. It's not a show from DC. Maybe that's why not everyone properly knows about it in a minute, because it's not coming under that label, for example. But that doesn't mean that this doesn't trump a load of other DC and Marvel shows. Like, seriously. It really proves a point that there are other shows being made like this one that knock other shows from the big brands out of the mother frickin' solar system. So check it out, guys. Please check it out. And other than that, like this video if you did enjoy it. Like it as well, and let me know your thoughts down below if you agreed with what I said. If you've already seen this season, definitely let me know your opinions and your favorite characters down in the comments below if you've seen it as well. Are you with me? Are you a big fan of Klaus and number 5? Other than that, everyone, I just really appreciate you checking out the channel today, taking your time to watch this far in the video. That's amazing. And hopefully you're gonna go watch Umbrella Academy now. I'm gonna end the video now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.